This nibble originally aired on RSBANDB Update, episode 867, Binding Hitboxes. Enjoy. The question was asked, what kind of long-term thinking is applied to where the game goes next? And this is something that has been in our mind as well since October-ish or so. Mod Mike said it's about having a much more longer-term plan for not only the updates, but the lore involved. And with this, he says Mod Jack has been carrying that torch and is planning to carry it on into 2023 and beyond, which is going to be providing a huge directional impact for the game. And what they want players to imagine is having RuneScape have various seasons where each season would be geared towards something different. So you'd have your Elder God War season that we're just wrapping up, and it would provide a good point for players to jump in and start focusing on various sets of content. And they're trying to balance that with being more open and with big moments that can be created. So, what does this tell us? I feel like the answer to this question is in many ways the answer players have been looking for, but this isn't the question that they wanted to ask to get that. What they wanted to ask to get that was, what is the new executive producer's name, and what is the roadmap going to look like for that? And I think this answers that right here, is that you're going to have your month-to-month headliners, but they're all going to be themed with a traditional story bent that are probably going to be carried on for about a year or so, as we saw last year with the Elder God Wars arc. And I feel like this question could have been framed in such a more dramatic way to create a bigger impact, but lo and behold, here we are.
Yeah, I think this has been done super well and super poorly. So I think batched content was super poorly executed. But I think something like Sliske's Countdown was fantastic. I think the thing that they need to remember is that this only works if it's story driven. Yeah. So the reason why God Wars Dungeon 3 has worked and Sliske's Endgame was so good was because there were so many story driven elements and quests.
Oh yeah.
I actually think Sliske's Endgame was the best because there was a quest every month or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And that was beautiful. So I think it has to be built around story, or it doesn't really work for me.
Tanis, I know you and I have been discussing this back and forth, and I want to know if you want to jump in here, or if I should weave this into the next one before I get your opinion on it.
Oh, why don't you weave your wicked web there, Shane?
Okay. And the reason it's so interesting tying this with the next question is because the question was asked that 5 to 6 month development time feels like a lot for a project, specifically talking about the boss and the quest that's coming up. And does this mean that there will be content droughts? And are there still going to be plans to have a monthly content agenda? And the answer to this is that 5 to 6 months isn't long, and that lead time for projects is normal in this day and age for RuneScape. And we asked Sirion about this at our monthly bit recording today, about what his opinion was on the fact that the project pipeline from start concept to delivery is 5 to 6 months. And he said, yeah, that sounds about right, given the way most of the games industry that works. And, sometimes there can be ones that are larger, ones that are bigger. And as an example of this, for them to get a candidate or get a update ready, it has to go into what's called a release candidate phase, and that phase itself is 2 weeks long, where the project is frozen and code freeze testing is done. And the answer from Mod Jack was, don't expect to see any changes on the content release timetable, which means you can still expect your monthly headliner. And Mod Mike underscored this by saying it's important to keep delivering good value monthly for the game, and the strong content updates have to have a reason to be there. And some updates that may have seemed random in the past are being tackled with this new seasonal structure. And I feel like everybody has been asking for the roadmap for this year, in particular of what's going to be happening. But at the same time, a lot of people were always asking, do we really need to know everything that's happening week by week or month by month? I feel like what they have done is they've taken what the players have been collectively saying for the past 3 or 4 years and implemented that into their release strategy that we're seeing right now.
you know what what it makes me think, and now having a little bit more time to kind of process it, it felt like we had a little bit of a content drought. Um, and
But
you
but I think
explained
we know
that with,
why.
yeah,
It's
we
because
do.
we got Hetz Oasis first week of the month,
Hmm.
and then the February update is coming third or fourth week of February. And that's
Right.
just like what we did with our round tables. We did the December one early, we did the
Hmm.
January one late.
But the other thing that I'm noticing is like that's like the kind of like in the moment thing. That's what's happening
Yeah.
right now in
Yeah.
the present.
Yeah.
But if you look at it, a lot of the promising things that Mod Warden brought seem to be carrying over. Um, doing this content, having story
A strong brand
behind it.
identity behind it.
Yeah, so I mean I see a lot of good things that are being carried on in like the big picture goals,
Yeah.
you know. Um,
And
and
that was a
I'm five.
concern at the end of the year, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah, like I said, I mean that makes me. I mean, it makes me feel a little better. Because you just you just never know. You just never know like how much is gonna stay in place, how much is gonna change, and I really felt we were in a good spot. Um, and 5 to 6 month timetable isn't that bad if you keep things going
Yeah,
at the same time.
and what I feel like has also happened here is I feel like the core decision making has been delegated down to the people like I forget Mod Mike's title. It's a title I always forget. But Mod Mike and Mod Jack seem to be pushing this forward to the point where most of what they were doing before under the Warden era has continued. And what I'm wondering is, was the whole reason we needed Mod Warden as EP back in the day, was that to get the entire company on this bandwagon of producing monthly headliners and focusing on making sure each release is special?
Well, and
And if
look at the
that
terms. Like
continues, you can
each
look
thing
back
has
at his 10 years of
value.
success. Each thing of
Yeah,
value was special. Yeah.
right. Yeah. Um, I think so.
And now we know that the new EP wanted to focus on technical side of it. What if he keeps most of that stuff the same and just focuses on the technical stuff that's been causing problems behind the scenes? Then you might have a really interesting combination of things happening.
You
And
could,
for
and it
that,
would make sense.
that's why I think these two questions, the way they were asked right next to each other, they were asked with two different things in mind. But when you compare these and you look at the framing on the way the answers were, this was the answer to what players have always been asking. Where is the roadmap and what does 2023 look like, or 2022 look like? And I think that's really important to be highlighted. You can find full episodes of RSBANDB Update right here on this YouTube channel. If you found this video useful or just enjoyed it, like and subscribe, or leave a comment.